Oh God, I hope I don't have COVID. It's been a while since I appeared on camera, and to be quite honest, I wanted to try something a little bit different, so this is going to be more of an off-the-pill kind of thing. But essentially what we're doing here today is I'm going to just talk about TV shows that I remember from my childhood that nobody else seems to remember. I was scrolling YouTube the other day, right? As one does. I'm watching videos. I fell down a rabbit hole, and the rabbit hole I fell down was like old TV intro songs to like Disney XD and Disney Channel shows. And one of them that I'll kind of talk about a little bit later was the intro for I'm in the Band, which was a Disney XD show that ran around 2010. And the intro song I remember vividly. It, for some reason, rocks way too hard. More than it really needed to for a show like that. And what really got me thinking about this video was I started scrolling through the comments, and the top comment was something like, I remember this so much, but I remember none of it. And I feel like there's a lot of shows from my childhood specifically where only I seem to remember the show, but even then I barely remember what happened in the show. Other people don't remember what happened because they don't even know what I'm talking about because it wasn't something that they really cared about or knew about when they were young. And I say that I'm only 21, but I'm talking about when I was 8 to 12, like those formative years, right? Today, what we're doing here is I have a list of shows that I've written down. I'm going to talk about them. I haven't looked up anything. I'm just going to go off of what I remember, try and hit the main points, maybe talk about some episodes that I remember from the show, and we're just going to go from there. If you remember any of these shows, please let me know in the comments down below. I'd really like to know if I'm the only person who remembers this, if this is some sort of weird Mandela effect where I'm the only person who remembers American Dragon Jake Long or something like that. Please let me know I'm not crazy. I'd super, super appreciate it. The first show that I have on my list is called Aaron Stone. It was the first Disney XD show. So when Disney XD first premiered, when it became, I think it was Toon Disney or Jetix or something, when it went over from that to Disney XD, it was the first live action scripted show that the new channel premiered with. And essentially what Aaron Stone was, it was about a teenager in high school who was really good at this video game called Hero Rising, and he was the number one player, and he found out that being the number one player basically means that you get to work as a top secret spy in the government, because the government or some organization was using Heroes Rising as some sort of training initiative, some sort of program that they could use for the purpose of finding people that they could potentially fold into this organization. And I remember really liking that show. I remember really wanting that video game to be real. He also had a ton of cool gadgets. He had a, interesting looking suit. He had a cyborg that was JP Manu, who's been a bunch of stuff, Disney Channel stuff from around that time. He also was Cusco in Emperor's New School, I think, or something like that, which is not on my list, but that's also another show I feel like I'm the only person who remembers. I remember there was one episode that had a wrestler, I think it was Chris Jericho on there. I remember one episode, I think, where the cyborg started to go crazy, maybe. That was an episode I remember. It was a fun show. I haven't watched it in forever, so I don't remember specific episodes at all. I'm actually racking my brain to try and remember anything. So with that said, that's Aaron Stone. We're going to move on into my next show, which is Zeke Luther, which I think I remember a lot more. Basically, Zeke Luther was a show about two skateboarders who wanted to make it big. It was a little bit like Ned's Declassified. They broke the fourth wall. It even had Cookie from Ned's Declassified as one of the main skaters. It also starred the guy who played Zeke. His grandfather was the voice of Abraham Lincoln in the Talks with Lincoln attraction at Disneyland in California. And then, of course, as everybody knows, Luther is in prison. If there's one episode I remember the most, I think there's one with Debbie Ryan, where it's the whole episode where they make it big.
Look, bro, it's the actress Courtney Mills. Oh, coming over, act cool.
Hey guys, have you seen any plates?
They go and kind of talk about what it's like to be famous and stuff like that, all the perils and everything like that. And then there's one episode that I actually just remember just now. It's the exploding skateboard, or it's Luther Waffles and the exploding skateboard or something like that, where basically the episode is just about this new skateboard that could potentially kill, like, it was based, the new skateboard was basically a bomb that would blow up. They were trying to like kill Zeke and Luther or something like that. So I remember that pretty vividly. I am most fond of, for this show, I have the best memories for the theme song, because I always thought the theme song was really fun, because there's just basically like insane ramblings. If you've ever heard it, it's the three main guys, so it's Zeke Luther and the guy who plays Cookie. I cannot remember his name for the life of me, but it was just basically insane ramblings about somebody like listening to them or something like that.
Wait, don't tell me, dude, you won't believe what happened. Yes, no, maybe, don't forget that I'm a genius. Are you crazy? Someone could be listening to us. Wait, don't tell me, not again.
So that was always really fun, and I always looked forward to listening to that every episode when it came on, like the summer of '09, drinking my cream soda, you know, and hearing my parents argue, all that kind of stuff. The next show on my list is The Replacements. I don't remember a lot from the show. I think it aired on like Saturday mornings on like the ABC Disney Channel block, like the weird, they would show like reruns of old or, you know, Disney Channel shows on ABC until like college football came on. And what I remember from this show is just the fact that there were these two kids who basically didn't like their parents, so they got new, cooler parents, and that was basically the whole gist of the show, was just replacing people, which is kind of fucked up when you think about it. So we're going to move on, because I don't really want to go down that road at this juncture. Roly Poly Oly is another show that I remember not a lot of. I just remember the character design. I had a Roly Poly Oly toy when I was really, really young. That was something that was meant a lot to me, but I think it was more of like a kid Disney kind of show, Disney Junior, whatever you want to call it. When I think about like my toy and stuff, I feel really good memories, right? We're gonna switch networks. I'm gonna talk about the Secret Saturdays, which I feel insane that I'm the only person who remembers it, because it was such a cool show. Basically, it was just a show about cryptids. It was a show about this family that hunted, or at least tried to like track down, like the what is it? Bigfoot, stuff like that, cryptids and all that kind of stuff. And there was one guy, he was the bad guy, that, would get in their way. He had a really cool, really, really cool design. I remember like Cartoon Network used to have really cool marketing gimmicks and stuff for their shows. When this show first premiered, the bad guy, he has a show in the show, and they had like a whole website devoted to him and his show, and you could like watch like an episode or something like that. It was super cool. It was like viral marketing kind of, but like 2009 version, all that kind of stuff. But that was always really cool. I thought that was impressive. It only ran for 2 seasons, and I think the last episode of the 2 seasons ends at a cliffhanger. Anytime there's a cliffhanger for a show that doesn't get renewed for another season, it's always like one of the most disappointing things in life. And the next 2 shows kind of deal with cliffhangers, which is always just the worst. They're both Cartoon Network shows as well. I'm going to get into some CN Real stuff. I feel like I'm the only person who enjoyed any part of the programming of Cartoon Network Real, which, if you didn't know what Cartoon Network Real was, basically it was just this block in the summer of '09 where Cartoon Network had like these like, real life cartoon shows or whatever, where basically they were either scripted or they were, competition shows, but it was real people, right? It wasn't cartoons. It went against the freaking name of the network and everything like that. But there were 2 shows that I still enjoyed, even though they weren't cartoons, and I feel like they got their unjust treatment because of that. The first one I'll talk about is Unnatural History. Basically, that was a show about a kid. He's living with like his uncle or whatever. He's going to school in Washington, and he basically finds treasure and stuff like that. It's basically, he's an archaeologist. It's a little bit, Indiana Jones. It's a little bit National Treasure. There's an episode where I think they find like a bomb that Benjamin Franklin essentially made. Another episode with like scarab beetles come out and stuff like that. It was pretty fun. It was well written. The characters were fun. Had a pretty good cast. It ended on not like so much a cliffhanger, but definitely teased the next season, because basically what happened was they go to like a different country. It's like the desert or whatever, and then they hear a dinosaur, roaring in the background or whatever, and it was supposed to be like, oh, we're going to find dinosaurs, we're going to find like cryptids or something like that, right? The Secret Saturdays kind of thing. But it didn't get renewed for a second season, which was super disappointing. I always enjoyed that show. I thought it was fun. I'm a big National Treasure fan, honestly. I love those movies for some reason, even though they're goofy. I made a video about one on this channel, so hopefully you've seen that. But it was a fun show. I'm sad they didn't ever, carry it on into some form. The other show I want to talk about from the CN Real block is Tower Prep, which is probably the show on here that I feel like nobody remembers at all. It was a very interesting show. There was like a whole bunch of like mythology to it. They were kind of stuck in the school. Nobody remembered how they got there. They were stuck there. There was no way out. There was this weird underground group called the Gnomes that were seemingly Tower Prep students that were like almost become deformed or something like that. And then basically the part that I remember the most is the last episode. They finally get out of Tower Prep. They meet the woman who is like the voice of the school. She's like this AI program. And basically what happened was she reveals to them that the headmaster who they've been fighting to get out of Tower Prep this whole time, who happens to be one of the main character's fathers. My camera's starting to fall. Hold on. It's revealed to them that he's actually been working from the inside to change Tower Prep. There's some sort of force. And I believe the whole thing is that he's fighting a change Tower Prep with like the first headmaster who's been thought to be dead for years and years at this point. So that was one. I remember every day after that show had ended, I would always be checking Wikipedia for whatever reason, Google, all these different places to see if they had renewed that episode, or excuse me, renewed that series. And when they finally said it was canceled, which I think it was like a year later, super disappointed at Paul Dini was a writer on it who wrote for Batman, the animated series, wrote a bunch of comics. He created Harley Quinn. He like basically created or was a major creative force in that show. I think he went on Kevin Smith's podcast and talked about what would have happened in like season 2 and so on. Sounded really cool. Probably should have just been like honestly like an HBO show or something like that. Like it was really, really cool. It was just on the wrong network, on the wrong channel, at the wrong time. And then, of course, the last show I want to talk about, I teased it a little bit in the beginning, is I'm in the Band. Basically, it was a show about, how many times have I used basically this episode? I don't really know, but hopefully you haven't gotten tired of it. But I'm in the Band was a show about a kid. He was a fan of this aging rock band who, had fallen out of, grace and all that kind of stuff. And he really wanted to help them get back to, their heights before. So he ends up joining the band somehow. I think he wins like a radio competition to meet them and then convinces them to make him a member of the band. And then he, becomes a member of the band. It's kind of about like, being in a band and, dealing with age and trying to get back on top and all that kind of stuff. The theme song was always awesome. I loved the cast. Had a couple Disney Channel veterans. I think Greg Baker was his name. He was like on Hannah Montana. Steve Valentine was the lead singer. He was in Spider-Man 3 of all movies, and he was really fun. And then, of course, Stephen Fuller would go on to play the eponymous dog with a blog. That's basically the video. I just kind of wanted to stroll down memory lane, talk about just a bunch of random ass TV shows that I feel like only I remember. Again, if you remember any of these TV shows or you have any shows yourself that you feel like nobody else remembers, leave a comment down below. Let me know, and maybe I'll make it part 2 to this if this goes over well. Other than that, have a great day. Hopefully you don't suffer from the same Mandela effect that I have suffered for months.